The caterhamracer.com Season 10 270R Championship is sponsored by DPR Motorsport, your competitive advantage, and by 1-to-1 on-track coaching and simulator training with Ryan Hooker. We're supported by FP0 Simulators.
Well, a very good evening, race fans, and a very warm welcome to round 6 of the 2023 caterhamracer.com 270R Championship. Today, we come to you from the wilds of Norfolk at the Snetterton circuit, the home of racing in the east of England, on the 300 circuit layout, one of the longest circuit layouts used by the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship, and things could not be much closer at the top between our two front runners. My name's Dave Goddard. I'll be taking you through the action. Alongside me in the commentary box, as always, is Chris Hutchinson. Chris, good evening.
Evening, and it's excellent to see Ryan Hooker out here. We had a little bit of trouble getting him in the room, but he is out and circulating on this long 300 version of this Snetterton circuit. So great to see him out there, and great to see all the other drivers getting ready. We've got, I believe, 20 drivers out there for you this evening, and I'm sure the racing will be as fantastic as ever.
It's great to be back in the commentary box as well. I've been missing for the last couple of rounds due to overseas commitments, and in that time as well, the complexion of the championship has changed. Max Haynes won 5 of the first 6 races of the year, but he's missed the last couple of rounds and has slipped down to 11th in the points standings. He's not out there tonight either. It's a 2-horse race at the top, separated by just 1 point in total. Christian Szaruta, the reigning champion, and Ryan Hooker, who took his first win in the series, his first ever win in the series at Thruxton last time out. Another first time winner on that occasion with Andrew Parker in race 9 of the season. He sits 3rd in the points, ahead of the consistent John Lang. Paul Ferneyhoff rounding out the top 5, but I believe he's absent due to illness tonight, unfortunately. Get well soon to Paul. Qualifying is well and truly underway here on the 300 layout here at Snetterton. This is the penultimate round of the series. Somebody just doing a bit of grass tracking there in the background. And the drivers looking to pile on points ahead of the final rounds of the season in a couple of weeks' time at Donington Park.
Yep, we're ready to get onto the banks again once more in 10 days for real life, but that obviously is the signal that we need to get out here, virtual racing, and it's great to see some of our drivers back. David Rowe was missing last time out, so good to have him back on board, as was Paul Donkin, which is why we saw some new sort of drivers at the top of the sheets, and I can just see Ryan Hooker's put himself on top of the pile for now. 209.0 is their best in pre-qualifying, so they're very close to that tonight in this session as well. But let's see what David Rowe could do. He's missed 3 rounds now, so he's struggling on those drop points when we get to the final round of the season, but he will no doubt be right up there and involved in all the action.
Retired from the lead in one of the races at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit as well, so he's had a fair bit of bad luck this year, David Rowe. He's only sitting down in 9th in the points, the DPR Motorsport boss. But with 3 minutes of this qualifying session still to go, it is Ryan Hooker who is on the top in car number 121, the one behind 121 driver coaching, ahead of Paul Donkin by just 15 1/1000ths of a second, less than a second covering the first 8 on the provisional starting grid for race 1. The usual format of 2 15-minute races, the result of race 1 setting the grid for race 2. There's our youngest competitor in the red and black car. That is Hudson Knight, was as high as 3rd in the free practice session that preceded qualifying. He's currently 9th in the qualifying times, just over a second off the provisional pole position as he swings his way around towards the back of the circuit at the moment. It's a very flat circuit here between Thetford and Norwich in Norfolk. Coming through, I think that's towards the back of the circuit at the moment. We'll try and take you on a full lap if we can. It is one of the longer laps. You can see the pole position time currently held by Ryan Hooker, 2 minutes 9.107. That's looking down the Bentley straights, the back straights here at the Snetterton 300 circuit, underneath the bridge and then down into Brundle and Nelson. Very easy to launch your car off the curb on the inside at Nelson, the right-hander. There's the final corner at Murray's. We ride on board with Steve Arnell. He'll be racing at Croft this coming weekend as well in the Caterham Graduates Championship. Steve Arnell taking us on a lap of the Snetterton circuit then. This will probably be his final flying lap of the session through the right-hander at Riches. You go off there on the outside, you're into the Farmers Field on the outside. Then it's up towards the hairpin. This is Wilson's hairpin, named after Justin Wilson, the late great IndyCar racer, former Formula 3000 champion as well. Running a little bit wide onto the exit there, just avoiding the curb. And then it's into the infield loop on this 300 circuit layout. The left-hander at Palmer's. Again, easy to run wide onto the grass there as well. Good overtaking opportunities exist into our next corner, which is the left-hander at Agostini, named after motorcycle legend Giacomo Agostini. Clip the curb slightly on the way in, keeping it nice and tight and smooth. Then up towards the short run to the left-hander at Hamilton's. No prizes for guessing where that corner gets its name from. That left flick a little bit tighter than it looks on TV as Steve Arnell just takes a little bit of curb there. Into the right-hander at Oggies and then up towards Williams, the corner which takes us into that long back straight, the formerly known as the Revit straights, now the Bentley straights. And then to what's effectively the second part of the lap. We go through Brundle, Nelson, then the bomb hole, the right-hander where the circuit drops away quite suddenly. Then the long right-hander at Coram and the final left-hander at Murray's back into the Senna straight. So that is a lap of the Snetterton circuit. We've got just over 20 seconds left on the clock. Paul Donkin has gone to the top with a time of 2 minutes 9.021. Championship leader Christian Szaruta on the second row of the grid. Steve Arnell well up there in fourth position on the grid as it stands at the moment, looking for his first podium of the season. There's Paul Donkin, that lovely looking red and white machine. Into Brundle he goes. Of course, this circuit in the home county of the Brundle family. Always run wide. Paul Donkin runs out wide there as the checkered flag comes out on our qualifying session. Are we going to see any late changes here? That's Andrew Parker, the number 99 car, the grey car with the orange cage. He's currently fifth fastest, looking to improve. Just kicking up a bit of dust there as he comes out of the final corner at Murray's. Christian Szaruta improves. He goes quickest over the line. Very impressive. Under 2 minutes 9, 2:08.994. Parker doesn't improve, but Ryan Hooker does. 2:08.918. Very close indeed at the top of the times. Ryan Hooker goes back to the top with his final flying lap of the session. Let's see if anybody else is going to improve. There's Matt Shepherd, the yellow and black machine, over the line. Will Stillwell in behind him. Paul Donkin has headed for the pit lane in the red car. Hudson Knight goes over the line. He improves to 8th place, 2:09.933. So 20 cars have set their qualifying times, including newcomer Paul Oglesby, making his debut this evening. So good luck to him. He's currently down at the tail end of the times at the moment. Last couple of cars just coming over the line. We'll wait to see if there's been any further changes there. Less than a second covering the first 7 on the provisional starting grid. Let's have a look at the grid then. Ryan Hooker with that late lap to set pole position alongside championship leader Christian Szaruta. Paul Donkin and Steve Arnold will fill row number 2. Then it's Andrew Parker and Will Stillwell on row 3. The 4th row, David Rowe and Hudson Knights. On row 5, Matt Shepherd alongside Alan Curtis in the 43 car. Then on row 6, Tom McEwing and Jason Knight. John Lang and Anthony Hambleton on row 7. Then it's Lee Green and Will Rayson filling the 8th row. Cameron Miller and Nick Platts on row 9. Neil Pardo and Paul Oglesby, our newcomer, completing the grid.
Yeah, great qualifying session there for Ryan Hooker, and I said 2:09.0 was our fastest in pre-quali. Well, Christian and Ryan Hooker both making it into the 2:08s on that final round of this circuit. So great laps for both of them. I thought Christian had done it. He just plonked it up there on pole position. I'm sure he thought that as well, but Ryan Hooker went that tiny weeny bit better, sort of 8/100ths, wasn't it? So yeah, great for him. And Donkin up there. Arnell will be pleased, I think, with 4th place. That's a great result for him. And Andrew Parker still well, and David Rowe all still there or thereabouts. All these times extremely close as we go down, sort of the top to 8 there, covered by just over a second.
So we await the cars to come onto the grid in a moment then. As we say, a couple of front runners absent tonight. So we don't have Paul Ferniehoff, no Gianni Lenz. Max Haynes missing his third round in a row, so has effectively written himself out of the championship. No Jaroslav Cherny either. But the cars are on the grid and almost ready to roll. Then it is Christian Szaruta and Ryan Hooker on the front row of the grid. Pole position on the outside here at Snetterton. The green and white car of Ryan Hooker alongside Szaruta in the almost Brawn GP lookalike, the number 2 car. This will be a 15-minute race. Second row of the grid, Paul Donkey in the red and white car. Steve Arnell, the yellow car with the almost patchwork effect on it there. And Andrew Parker rounding out the top 5, the grey car with the orange cage. So who's your money on for this one then, Chris?
Well, if Ryan Hooker can reduce those laps, why not take a second victory? And so he's definitely going to be up there or thereabouts. We see both of these two drivers at the front here, Christian and Ryan, both renowned for their racecraft and their wiliness out there. So look to see whether Arnell can hold off the onslaught from behind. And David Rowe's got a bit of work to do, hasn't he? Midfield there. It's not often we see him that far back alongside our young charger Hudson Knight. But yeah, I'm going to keep it on Ryan Hooker for this one. Let's see how he gets on. But we have seen Christian disappear off up the road a couple of times, but the lights are here, so we're soon going to find out.
Okay, here we go then. 15 minutes of racing on the Snetterton 300 circuits for the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship. The red lights come on. When they go out, we'll be underway. Lights go out, and here we go. Good start by both of the front row men. Decent getaway by Paul Donkin as well. They head down towards Rich's corner. Oh, the two front row men have tangled and wallop straight into the barrier. Goes Ryan Hooker. So it's Paul Donkin who leads the way. What on earth happened there? Both of the front row men into the barriers on the inside. They didn't even get near the first corner. That was a Hamilton and Rosberg moment almost there. Disaster for our two main contenders. And it's Paul Donkin who leads out of the hairpin for the first time. Steve Arnell is in second place. Will Stillwell from the third row of the grid is up in a third. He's outpaced Andrew Parker. And it's David Rowe who rounds out the top 5. But it's the multi-talented Paul Donkin who leads the way as they come up to Agostini for the first time. What on earth happened to our front row men?
Yeah, I reckon that was an immovable object meeting an unstoppable force, and there was quite significant contact. We see Arnell dropping wide there, losing out a couple of places. Stillwell and Parker making it past, and David Rowe now obviously in that lead battle. But a significant contact. We do run with sort of not full damage, but 70% damage, so they will probably have ill-handling cars, and they've got wherever they finish in this race, they will start the next race. So it's a long fight for them all evening now to try and recover this and try not to make this into one of their drop scores.
Well, they've dropped to 15th and 16th, as you can see on the timing screen on the left of your picture there, as the rest of the pack heads into the Bentley Straight for the first time. Into the distance, it's Paul Donkin already with 1 second lead over Will Stillwell, who's come through in the second place. Steve Arnell made a mistake as Agostini ran out wide. He's down to 4th and under fire from David Rowe here. The DPR Motorsport car having a look down the inside, under braking into Brundle. He goes through and up into 4th position. Excuse me. It's all happening already on this first lap. Andrew Parker there in 3rd place, looking for his second win in as many meetings. He won round 9 at Thruxton in Hampshire. Out of the bomb hole through the right-hander at Corham, then into the tighter left-hander at Maurice. Paul Donkin in the clear. Looking at the points, he's down in 15th at the moment. Missed a couple of rounds earlier in the season. He's had a few podiums, but he's yet to win so far this season. They complete the first lap of this race. It is the 24 of Paul Donkin who leads the way.
Yeah, fantastic season out in the real world racing as well for Donkin in the 420R Championship. He leads the amateur class in that quite easily, and looking to see whether he can become champion-elect next time out when they're out on track at Snetterton. But David Rowe still having a bit of trouble. Will Stillwell getting a reputation for really good early lap form, moving forward very in the early laps, but then does tend to drift away a little bit by mistake. Look, someone that looks like Tom McEwen spinning around. It is indeed Tom McEwen, the green car we just saw in the corner of our screen, heading in the wrong direction down at the Wilson hairpin. But yeah, so David Rowe making early progress. Sharuta's up to 10th already though, so he is making his way back through this field.
Into Agostini, the lead group heads. I've just noticed that the clock on the right of the screen says just under 22 minutes to run. Is this meant to be a longer race?
It's not, so I'm not sure exactly why that is, but if it is, then unfortunately that's what we've got tonight. So it should be a 15-minute race. Let's see whether we've got a single... we might have to reboot the server to give them a second race, but yeah, that's an interesting one on me. Not expected.
Just thought, are we having, as it's a longer lap here, are we having a slightly longer race tonight? I'm sure the drivers relish it if that is the case, as they head down the Bentley straights. Once again, great shot here as they charge towards us. Paul Donkin in the clear by nearly 3 seconds now, and David Rowe lunging to the inside. They're going to go 3 wide as they run into Brundle and Nelson. Rowe up the inside. Can he get the car stopped in time? Andrew Parker goes out wide. He'll get the line for the inside at Nelson. He's just about got into second place there. And who's this coming through? Will Stillwell, the black car with the yellow cage. No, Rowe lost out there. He was too late on the brakes, and Steve Arnell has come through as well. Hudson Knight and Matt Shepherd are closing up as well. Now, Matt Shepherd has missed the last couple of rounds as well. The yellow car at the back of this group, and he needs some points. So he's well up there in 7th. Alan Curtis, Christian Szaruta, good recovery drive along with Ryan Hooker. They're now both back into the top 10 as we ride with Matt Shepherd charging his way along the Senna straight. Of course, here at Snetterton, the great Ayrton Senna scored his first win in UK racing in Formula Ford all those years ago. Up towards the right-hander at Riches. Hudson Knight on the outside, the youngest man in the field, chasing after Steve Arnell, who's been taken by David Rowe for 4th place. Then up this short straight towards the Wilson's hairpin, the famous scary tree looking on in the background. They're almost together there into the hairpin, trying to get the cut back is Matt Shepherd. But all the time they're battling, they're losing time to Paul Donkin. Somebody going off and into the barriers there on the exit of the hairpin. I think that might have been Alan Curtis.
Indeed, it is Alan Curtis. Another spinner there. That's the purple car there, isn't it? John Lang. So lots of spinners coming out the hairpin there. Alan Curtis doesn't look like he's going to get up and running, does he? But it is now Andrew Parker moved himself into that 2nd place with David Rowe up into the 3rd place. So it's all change out front as we watch Donkin disappear off our screen, and yeah, a little bit behind, like we said, watching Matt Shepherd to see whether he can do anything with this pack of angry cars in front of him. Lock up there from Stillwell just going into the Oggies as they head around then with 19 minutes on the clock left. So it is clearly the server's had a little wobble and it's set the wrong settings, and we will just have to deal with what we deal with when we come out the other end of this. And but yeah, at the moment it's Donkin looking like he might well be sailing off into that distance. Parker seeing whether he can set off in hot pursuit, and the rest of these pack just seeing who's going to trip up. But it just behind them we have got that Ryan Hooker and Christian Szaruta train, so they may well be able to, with this extended race length, be able to fight their way through.
Yeah, this is the endurance round of the season, clearly. There's Will Rayson in 10th place. He's got Knight behind him in the... what number is he? Never mind that, because we've got a battle going on now between... So, oh my goodness, who's that who came flying off the curb going into the bomb hole there? Is that Steve Arnell who's gone off?
Yeah, it looked like
down the time screen it is.
There's some funny geometry in some of the bits of the track, and I think he just must have gone onto the grass and caught one of those lumps and bumps. We see it a bit at Alton Park in real life, don't we, where they get flung up in the air, and it just looked like as he came flying across our screen that he just clipped the wrong bit of the grass there.
Well, he's down to 17th place as a result of that. We said it's the endurance round, not the stunt driving round there, Steve Arnell. More like motocross tactics than Caterham racing there, as the battle for second heads up into the Wilson's hairpin. 3 cars line astern. Parker, Rowe, and there's Stillwell at the back of that group. Hudson Knight is now into P5 with Matt Shepherd on his tail. That's given Hooker and Szaruta 7th and 8th places. 9th place we have got Will Rayson. And completing the top 10 it is Jason Knight, 2nd of the Knight family. They're both in the top 10 now. Nick Platts in 11th place. Tom McEwing recovering from his earlier spin is 12th. This is certainly an incident-packed affair so far.
Indeed, yeah. So it's not obviously it's a bit. It's not like they've been crashing into each other all the time, except for that opening group, which we actually didn't catch on the camera, is it? They've just been crashing with the scenery and spinning. They're obviously finding it a little bit tricky around this Snetterton 300 track as they head on through, down to what is going to be 17 minutes in this first race to go. And Matt Shepherd there trying to make his move up on Hudson Knight, and he's still trying to fight him going down here into Wilson and out onto the back straight. But at the moment has to sort of sit back and wait, but he's got the whole straight now to work out how he can do it. But all the time in his rearview mirrors he's seeing Szaruta and Hooker catch up.
Now, Alan Curtis has confirmed a technical failure was what caused him to go off coming out of the hairpin, so he's out of the race, sadly. Side by side again between Hudson Knight and Matt Shepherd. They've been inseparable for the last couple of laps. As a move for second, and they're spinning all over the place there. The whole of the second place battle has gone off. What is going on coming out of Nelson there? David Rowe's got going again, and I think is still second. But Parker has gone spinning, so has Stillwell. That's Will Rayson weaving his way through the middle of them. What's got into these drivers tonight?
They're in their holiday mood still, aren't they? They're not used to getting to this. Matt Shepherd so found himself up into that third place. Christian Szaruta tailing him now. So all the way back from the back of the field for Hooker and Christian Szaruta. They're now in the second pack. Remember, Donkin's disappeared 10 seconds up the road. So they've got a lot of work to do there. But I just saw it in the distance, like you say. I think it looked like David Rowe had got up the inside of Parker and then they just clashed. I think Will Stillwell just got caught up with the two cars spearing off to the left of the track.
Well, if you can keep your head while all around you are losing theirs, you will win races. And that's what Paul Donkin is doing at the moment. He's 10.5 seconds up the road. David Rowe has somehow retained second. Now here comes Christian Szaruta back up into third place. He rejoined in about 16th place after going off even before the first corner. Matt Shepherd behind him. Then it's Hudson Knight in fifth and Ryan Hooker in P6. He's looking to maybe take the lead of the championship if he can catch Christian Szaruta. They're only at 1 point apart, and on drop scores they are 7 points apart. But drop scores don't come into play, of course, until the final round at Donington in a couple of weeks' time. David Rowe up there in second place. He's down in P9 in the championship, one of a number of drivers who missed the trip to Thruxton, which has dropped him back a little. Had some bad luck, as we mentioned, at Silverstone as well, retiring from the lead in race 1 on the Grand Prix circuit. He's under fire from Szaruta, then Shepherd, Knight, Ryan Hooker, then a gap back to Will Rayson is about 3 seconds further back in P7. Andrew Parker's got going in 8th place, Will Stillwell P9, Jason Knight still rounding out the top 10 as the race at last starts to settle down again. Yeah,
it'd be good to have a little bit of a period of settle. Like in the background, I can still see dust being kicked up by what looked like a recovering Andrew Parker there. So Will Rayson and Andrew Parker side by side kicking up the dust as they went through. But Christian Szaruta made up another place, moves himself into second place of this race. So yeah, that's even our normal race length is obviously 15 minutes, and tonight it's been set by the stewards. So I'm going to go and chat to the stewards in a minute, see whether we will call this race after our normal 15 minutes and then get the clock reset. Sails absolutely tight as you like as they go round. This would still be 4 minutes to go in our normal race length for our drivers.
Yes, I think we need a quick word with the timekeepers here, as a bit of grass tracking there for Christian Szaruta, who's now through into P2. Heading over the line, he's nearly 12 seconds behind Paul Donkin now. Though Paul's had a couple of podiums already this year, but this would be, I think he was second at Croft and a second at Thruxton as well. This would be his first win of the season. Szaruta coming under fire in the other DPR run car there. David Rowe and Matt Shepherd all in DPR Motorsport cars fighting for second, third and fourth down into the hairpin. Ryan Hooker up there in fifth place in the 1-to-1 driver coaching car. Matt Shepherd has a look on the inside. Hudson Knight is down into sixth position. Seen him appear in Citroen C1 virtual racing in the past as well. Christian Szaruta, the reigning caterhamracer.com champion, looking to extend his championship lead. Took the lead with the absence of Max Haynes after his dominance early in the season. Defending here from David Rowe down into the left-hander at Agostini. Matt Shepherd, his best run of the year so far, in fourth, holding off Ryan Hooker, then Hudson Knight, then a gap back to Andrew Parker. He's nearly 4 seconds back up the road. He's got ahead of Will Stillwell into P7. Will Rayson has dropped to P9. It's now Tom McEwing ahead of Jason Knight into 10th position. 19 of the 20 cars are still going, including Paul Oglesby. Mustn't forget our newcomer down there in P19. Alan Curtis, the only non-runner. Technical problems causing him to crash out a couple of laps ago.
See them then heading down this Bentley straight again. Christian Szaruta now ahead of David Rowe, and behind Ryan Hooker's made his way back up into that fourth place ahead of Matt Shepherd. As you say, Hudson Knight's drifted to sixth. Andrew Parker trying to come back across that gap. You can see him next up here behind the red car, trying to close in that, but Hudson's been fully involved in this battle, hasn't he, since the lights went out, and there is Stillwell after early progress, obviously having that accident, getting caught up with Parker and Rowe, and therefore ending up in 8th place. A little bit further back, we've got all Oglesby still circulating, just 4 seconds off the back of Cameron Miller. Lee Green there is also standing 17th. We'd expect to see him a little bit higher, so I think that'll be disappointing for Lee back down there. But John Lang, we saw having that spin as well. Ryan Hooker running off very wide there. So you don't want to do that too many times. You get your track limit penalty as we start settling in then. And yeah, we are going to take this race to the end of the allotted time, and then the next one we will make 15 minutes.
So bonus few laps here for our drivers tonight. A comment come in from Paul Fernihoff, says incident review will be interesting this week. I certainly agree with you there, Paul. I wouldn't like to be a steward on this race. We've seen plenty of incidents so far, as Matt Shepherd just takes a bit of curb there, chasing Ryan Hooker, who's just gone through into P4. Szaruta now up to 2nd. He and Rowe going clear of Ryan Hooker in that 4th position in the 1-2-1 car. Then Shepherd and Hudson Knight. Big battle going on for 2nd position. It's Paul Donkin. He's away and gone, probably wondering where everyone else has got to out in front.
Yeah, he'd be looking in his mirrors, laughing to himself, chuckling away, won't he? It's not often you get to do that in a Caterham race, but if it ever happens in real life, it's a very strange feeling indeed not to be engaged in battle for the whole period of time. But yeah, we have settled into a little, everyone's sort of sorted themselves into an order now, haven't they? Which is kind of in a speed order. Just little mistakes here and there, moving people forward and backwards. I've got someone spun off in the background there in turn 1. Is that Oglesby? He looks like he's facing the wrong way. Yes, he's off. Pulled out and pulled into the pit lane, so he is a DNF. Unfortunate for him in his return back. The first time he's been out with us this season, so that's a sad way to end his race. But yeah, nevertheless, this battle up front is just settled itself a little bit, which is good for our nerves.
Yes, good for our voices as well as they head through Brundle and Nelson. The tighter line taken there by Ryan Hooker. He's trying to take P3 away from David Rowe. They go down into the bomb hole. You can see there clearly the way the circuit drops away into that little dip midway through the corner. It was originally named the bomb hole by a group of motorcycle racers, I believe, when Snetterton first opened. Certainly you notice that much more on a motorbike. Through Murray's they come for the final time, named after the late legendary voice of motorsport, Murray Walker. The centre straight they come. Christian Szaruta has now broken away into P2. David Rowe having to defend from Ryan Hooker, who's trying to go around the outside as we look from our overhead camera, like a couple of micro machines on that angle, racing down into Riches. David Rowe able to hang on the inside line. We go up towards the Wilson hairpin, formerly known as Montreal. There's the scary tree in the background looking on, a famous Snetterton landmark, of course. David Rowe just about holds the place there. Out of the hairpin towards Palmer, the left-hander, named after Dr. Jonathan Palmer, the owner of Motorsport Vision Racing and former Formula 1 driver. Little gap back to Matt Shepherd now in 5th place. Hudson Knight still looking on there in 6th position. And Andrew Parker is closing up slightly on now. There's the grey car in the background. Will Stillwell going with it.
Indeed, yeah, Parker's come across quite a big gap already. So yes, he was 2 seconds back, but he's that's like 4 seconds back, but he's brought back 2 of those already. So he can probably, by the end of this, still 8 minutes to go, so he can probably still make his way back up. As we see David Rowe going wide at Hamilton, you can see the mud marks as other cars have done a similar in the past. But Rowe still managing to just about hold on there. Though we've seen them both on the grass in their pursuit of this position.
Out towards the back of the circuit they go. Once again then, we're just under 8.5 minutes of this race still to go, but it is a long lap here on the Snetterton 300 circuit, as I mentioned, just over 2 minutes. You will see their lap times in the 2:08, 2:09 as up the inside, Ryan Hooker side by side with David Rowe. Rowe's going to be on the inside though if he stays there as they go into the left at Brundle, but has Hooker got the sweep around the outside? Yes, he has. Going to get the car stopped for Nelson's. Just about. Rowe will fight back on the inside. Terrific fight between these two towards the bomb hole and Coram. Hooker's never going to go around the outside at Coram, surely. And David Rowe will just about hold the place in 3rd. Good defensive work there by David Rowe. Bravery from Ryan Hooker, just not quite able to get round him on the brakes.
Good work by both of them there to position the cars exactly where they needed to. David Rowe just about holding on, but he does look under attack, doesn't he? Fully under threat as Matt Shepherd watches on. Hudson Knight's continue to look in his rearview mirrors because Will Stillwell's also making a good fight back. And behind Will, there's a big gap back to Jason Knight, the other of our two knights in 9th place there. Tom McEwing still not recovered back through. He's in 10th place. We saw him spinning early on at the Wilson hairpin as we got absolute nose to tail. Then Ryan Hooker seeing whether there's anyone at the inside. There isn't. David Rowe protects the inside, then moves back slightly towards the outside, locks up as he goes into the hairpin, really pushing the limits, and that's going to let Ryan Hooker go up his inside. But the inside of the Wilson hairpin is the outside of Palmer, so David Rowe still looks like just by the skin of his teeth he's going to hold on to that. I think he will. Ryan Hooker does drop back into alignment. A little bit of you can see the net code there, a little bit of jankiness of these two cars. You can see there's another feature of online racing that you don't have in real life, that slight rubber banding we call it. But Ryan Hooker is now down the inside of the Agostini hairpin, and David Rowe has to slot in behind. So a long sort of 3 laps attempt, but he is finally ahead. Can he hold on?
Let's see if he can pull away after Christian Szaruta. These two, of course, fighting for the championship lead. Szaruta and Hooker. David Rowe is down in P9 in the points. Andrew Parker 3rd in the points. Then John Lang 4th in the championship at the moment. He's down in P16. It's had a very quiet race so far, John Lang. I think he had a spin at the hairpin early on. He's the purple car, isn't he?
Yes, that's right. He's the purple sort of. He used to be shiny car, but he's calmed his the colour scheme down.
The unicorn. That's right.
Calmed it down a little bit. But we've got more side by side. David Rowe and Ryan Hooker are not done yet. David Rowe does sneak a nose ahead, but Hooker's now down the inside of Brundle and Nelson, and he does make it all stopped up. So he still holds on to that position and still behind. Parker was 2 seconds back. Now he is only that single second back now from the rear of Hudson Knight.
Up towards Coram they come then. It is Ryan Hooker holding that 3rd place. They've dropped 4.5 seconds back from Christian Szaruta. Towards Murray's Matt Shepherd trying to stay with them. There's Knight. Parker's caught them as well. There's Will Stillwell, the black car with the yellow roll cage. He's keeping in touch as well. They're nearly 7 seconds clear of Tom McEwing, who's now passed Jason Knight up into P9. The rest of the field will come through behind. We've got Nick Platts in 11th place behind Jason Knight. Will Rayson is in P12. He's dropped back a little. Steve Arnell, recovering from his earlier moment, is P13. And we've got Anthony Hambleton in 14th place. Neil Pardo is 15th. John Lang 16th. And still these two are side by side up towards the hairpin. Ryan Hooker just about holds the place on the inside. 17th place is Lee Green. And it's Cameron Miller rounding out the runners in P18.
I'm looking up and down for other close battles that we can go and chase, but these two have just been decidedly on top of each other. This is the closest battle we've got on track. Cameron Miller there is just on the tail of Lee Green towards the rear, but yeah, everyone else has sort of spread themselves out a little bit, and Andrew Parker just getting his way back onto the rear end. So I think this is the battle of the race so far, and it has been a battle, and it is going to be championship intensive, because remember, Ryan Hooker is just behind Christian Szaruta on normal scores, and in drop scores Christian even pulls a little bit further ahead of him. So Ryan desperately needs to keep ahead of David Rowe for his championship.
It's a little bit like a stage in a major cycle race, isn't it? So because Paul Donkin's the breakaway at the front, and everybody else is in the peloton behind him. Well, certainly these 6 cars are. There's Paul Donkin, so we haven't forgotten about him. He heads through Brundle and Nelson. He's 12.5 seconds near enough clear of the rest of the field. Just out for an evening's drive out in front here at Snetterton. There's Christian Szaruta in 2nd place. Now over 5 seconds clear of his championship rival Ryan Hooker, and David Rowe's going straight on, is he? No, just gets the car stopped there for the left-hander at Brundle. I thought he was going through the cones and up the escape road for a second there.
I think he would have thought that as well. It certainly looked panicked braking, didn't it? Not the normal controlled braking. Yes, as we saw the two serenely going off out in front, and then all heck breaks loose as soon as these guys come onto our screen. Let's see whether Matt Shepherd can do anything. He does look like he's in that kind of intermediate phase where he's not really willing to push forward, but he's just about to have Hudson Knight start to push him, because Hudson Knight in turn is being pushed by Parker, who will now looking in his mirror to see whether Stillwell's going to close in. Stillwell, that's 3 seconds back at the moment, 3 minutes left of this race. Looks like he's going to struggle to get back to the front, but Donkin's the whole length of the Bentley straight ahead of everybody.
So she'll get this and one more lap, I would think, out of this race. So this is a slightly extended race for the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship, round number 11 of the season. Still holding 3rd place is Ryan Hooker. He's 5.5 seconds back. There's Christian Szaruta in the distance. He'll extend his championship lead by another point or two in this race. Paul Donkin is all set to win it, barring any major mechanical malady, out in front and take his first success of the season. Now Andrew Parker's right on the tail of Hudson Knight for P6 there. He's caught back up after that schmozzle coming out of Nelson earlier on. We go on board with the number 99 of Andrew Parker. Nice to cut in there as Hudson Knight up ahead of us. Regular in the Palmer Sports Caterham trials over the years in the 2010s, Andrew Parker. Being coached by Darren Burke as well. It's certainly paying off here as he chases the young gun Hudson Knight for P6. Matt Shepherd just ahead of him.
Yeah, he's put in a lot of time on this simulator to get himself up to speed, and certainly proved very fast, like I say, winning his first championship event last time out with us. So good to see him making that step up and finally making it all the way to the top step of the podium. You can see a little bit further back, Lee Green just making the best of Cameron Miller as they continue their battle. 1 minute and a half to go then in this race, and David Rose just following on now. Drift away a little bit from Ryan Hooker's tail, and everyone's spread out except for that Parker-Hudson battle. So this is really the battle, I think, to the end.
Through the bomb hole they come then for what will be the penultimate time. Can Hudson Knight hold off Andrew Parker? The gap is over 13 seconds now, so Paul Donkin is on his way to victory. 5 seconds in it between second and third. Can Hooker get the gap down to Christian Szaruta? He's only got one more lap left to do so. David Rowe in behind them. He's dropped away just a little bit now from Ryan Hooker, just over a second in it between those two. As over the line they go, and Hudson Knight side by side with Andrew Parker trying to get around the outside as they head into the right-hander at Riches. You can see there on the outside, if you go off, there's no barrier there. You go into a field that's normally ploughed, so your Caterham won't survive that intact, I don't think. Andrew Parker now got around a little bit wide coming out of Riches there. He goes back to the inside into the hairpin, but it's a good defensive run by Hudson Knight on this final lap. He holds that 6th position. Will Stillwell not close enough to challenge at the moment. She's another 3 seconds further back.
Absolutely stalwart defence, getting a little bit of a nudge there as well, but he is absolutely planting his car exactly where it needs to do. He's doing what he needs to do to hold Andrew behind him. Andrew's trying everything he can to try and get by, but hasn't made it so far. But Hudson Knight, it's a skill to have to resist that kind of pressure. There's a big pressure, a car literally sitting on your rear bumper and driving in your mirrors as well as out front, and Hudson Knight's proving that he's got all those skills even in his sort of lesser years.
Parker's really pushing. You see the car move out onto the grass there as Hamilton's. That corner deceptively tight through that little left-hander there as they head out onto the back of the circuit once again. Hudson Knight still defending. As they go towards the Bentley Straight. We are on the last lap now. The marshals will be readying the checkered flag on the start-finish line. There's a glimpse of Christian Szaruta. He's safe in second place. Ryan Hooker is not going to catch him now. He's pulled away though from David Rowe. But meanwhile down towards Coram, here is our race leader. He's just cleared off as everybody else has rather fallen over each other behind in this rather chaotic first race of the day for the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship here at the Snetterton 300 circuit. He's going to weave his way across the line. He's had a couple of podiums already this year, but at long last, Paul Donkin is a winner at Snetterton this year in round 11 of the championship. He takes the checkered flag. Paul Donkin takes his first win of the season. It'll be Szaruta and Hooker home for second and third places. This is the main battle now. There's Christian Szaruta over the line to extend his championship lead with second place, an incredibly consistent run this year. Ryan Hooker will complete the podium, and fourth place goes to David Rowe. Matt Shepherd in fifth now. Who's going to be sixth? It could be a photo finish here between Hudson Knight and Andrew Parker. I think Knight just got there over the line. Will Stillwell behind him in eighth place. Tom McEwing after an early spin comes home for ninth, and it's Jason Knight in the orange car completing the top 10.
Yeah, we'll wait for the official timer on that. Sometimes those things get reversed, but it did look like Hudson maybe just had a nose over the line. But yeah, until we get the official timing, we won't know that for sure. I saw a Donkin setting an absolutely storming fastest lap on the way to that victory, so he was not even held that back by the fact he didn't have a toe. So some great fastest lappers. We're just waiting now for Lee Green to get up to the line, and he finally broke clear of Cameron Miller, I can see, in that 18th place. Before we get to hear our last two drivers. There we go, Lee Green coming across the line. We're just waiting here to
he's hit the pit wall. Dear Lee.
Simulator drivers, eh? And there we go with Cameron crossing the line as well. So
now Cameron Miller's done the same thing. He spun across the line as well. Control your weaving, gentlemen.
Indeed.
What a mistake at a maker.
They love doing that at the end of a race. Why not? It's a simulator world. That's with you're going to have some, nice, frivolity at the end.
Another one's got in there now. What's going on? Let's have a look at the result then. Paul Donkin taking the win by just under 13 seconds from Christian Szaruta in the end. What a crazy race that was. Ryan Hooker in third place. Great recovery by both of them for second and third after tangling off the line. David Rowe in fourth place ahead of Matt Shepherd. Then Hudson Knight in sixth position, just a few hundredths ahead of Andrew Parker at the line. Will Stillwell in eighth place. Tom McEwing and Jason Knight completing the top 10. 11th was Steve Arnell ahead of Anthony Hambleton, and then John Lang, despite a spin, taking P13 ahead of Will Rayson, who dropped back over the course of that one. Nick Platt's 15th ahead of Neil Pardo. The final finishers Lee Green and Cameron Miller. We lost Paul Oglesby and Alan Curtis, who both sadly crashed out.
So, what we're going to have to do now is I'm going to have to go quickly chat to the stewards, and I will have to chat to the racers and tell them what we're going to do. We will have to go and reset the timer, and then we will have a race. But what we're going to do is, if you please, everyone hold on, we'll put a holding card up, and we'll be back with you just in about 5 minutes' time. Okay, welcome back everybody. We have had our word with the stewards, and we are going to have a single 15-minute race to conclude tonight's racing, and that will be with a random grid. So it's going to be all quite exciting and mixed up, but we are, I think, just about ready to get that underway. So let me sort that out as we go into here. So yeah, it will be a random grid, so let's get that going through.
Okay, apologies for the slight confusion there, everyone. It was a slight problem with the server there, as we've seen, but thanks to Chris for sorting that out as we get ready for race 2, round 12 of the caterhamracer.com 270R Championships. Bear with us just a moment. We'll be underway as soon as we're able. Grid is formed then by the look of things. It's John Lang in pole position this time on this random lineup. Steve Arnell starting alongside him. That's Alan Curtis, failed to finish race 1. He's on the second row of the grid. Cameron Miller, it looks like, starting alongside him.
Yeah, we've got
Ryan Hooker's almost at the back. David Rowe is right at the back, and Christian Szaruta as well. So our lead battlers from race 1 all at the back there. Paul Donkin is on row 4.
Indeed, this is almost like a reverse grid, like you say, with Matt Shepherd and Will Stillwell all back there as well. So they've got a long way to do. And yeah, already Ryan Hooker's had that, and Christian Szaruta fought back through. They've only got 15 minutes this time to do in a similar fashion. Let's hope they keep this all under control then, because it's going to be an exciting time for them all then, and some of these drivers out front are definitely not going to be used to it. Can Alan Curtis, can he disappear off down the road enough that it takes the leaders enough time to get through that he may be able to scamper a win on this one? Maybe Arnell has got that same chance, hasn't he? Good, clear review down to turn 1.
Well, that's how it works in stock car racing. The higher scorers and faster drivers from previous events start at the back and have to fight their way through the field. So something a bit different here then. Race 2 about to get underway. A random grid, 15 minutes of racing. The lights are out and off they go. Ryan Hooker gets away well from towards the back. Andrew Parker's just ahead of him. This is almost a reverse grid from race 1, with the exception of Paul Donkin up there on the 4th row. It's John Lang who leads the way into that first corner at Riches. Swing their way through. Steve Arnell in second place and Cameron Miller in third. Alan Curtis didn't quite get the start that he had hoped for there. Lee Green has come through into 4th place. He was struggling a bit in race 1. A couple of cars running out wide through the hairpin for the first start. Nick Platts in the blue car getting a little bit crossed up in the midfield. Already the championship contenders looking to make their way through. We've lost a couple of cars, only 15. And Ryan Hooker's tangle with Matt Shepherd. Andrew Parker's off as well. I think that was McEwing in there too. Now, have they all recovered? There's McEwing on the grass. There's Szaruta and David Rowe. We just caught a glimpse of in the foreground. Ryan Hooker's down to the back of the field again, along with Matt Shepherd. He breezes past him there on the run into Agostini. It almost seems tonight as if no one wants to win these races.
I was about to say they're all backing each other up into that corner, and obviously with the slightly slower grid out front means that everyone had to give themselves a little bit more room. And Tom McEwing spun again. Curtis has spun, and we've got the... and more spins there going on as they head round out of Ogglesby that time. And Tom McEwing and Ryan Hooker making their way back through the detritus of the cars hanging around all over the place. So not gone well in these early, but that looked to be a rear end just stepping out on those drivers rather than any contact. And maybe there was a little touch or a nudge to send those cars sideways. But it's currently Arnell who leads this race ahead of John Lang, and Paul Donkin's fought his way all the way through there up into 3rd place already.
Now, I know that there was, for a time, a beer available at Snetterton called Snetterton Scary Tree, after the famous landmark. I think the drivers may have been sampling it here.
I think you might be right.
I jest, of course. Of course, we don't condone drinking and driving, as Steve Arnell leads the way then, ahead of John Lang. Paul Donkin behind them in 3rd. They've broken away from everybody else. There's Nick Platts up there in 4th. He's got David Rowe on his tail and Christian Szaruta. They've come through as a result of everybody else spinning off from the back of the grid up into 5th and 6th positions. Then it's Andrew Parker who's recovered from that first corner melee. John Lang up the inside as they go down towards Riches for the second time. But Donkin is eating into their lead all the time. Steve Arnell it is who has the lead. Had a Caterham Graduates class victory at Brands Hatch at the beginning of this season on Easter weekend. 3 cars line astern now for the lead as things start to settle down after a crazy opening lap once again. Donkin to the inside on John Lang, and they are nearly 4 seconds clear of the rest already.
And it's Donkin's first time sort of fighting with someone, isn't it? He's not had a car in front of him all evening long so far, but he's positioning his car nicely, and it's John Lang there deciding to move out and not take that toe. He has got a slight overlap as they head down into the Agostini hairpin. He's got the overlap, and it looks like he's going to get it done nicely. Tucks to the inside. The car hugs that apex, so really under control. Can see where he generates his speed from as he now looks to see whether he can get after a Steve Arnell.
Up towards Hamilton, the 3 leaders come then. Paul Donkin looking to go for the double. He's only 15th in the championship, having missed a couple of rounds earlier in the season, so a good score here will bump him well up into the top 10, I would wager. There's our championship leader, Christian Szaruta, in 6th position, just ahead of Andrew Parker. P5, I should say, just ahead of Andrew Parker and Will Stillwell, because Nick Platts has dropped back a little down to 8th position ahead of Neil Pardo. Ryan Hooker is in there in P10. There he is. Not been the happiest of evenings for him. The 2 green cars of Green and McEwing side by side, and then it's 3 wide at the back between Curtis, Miller and Matt Shepherd. So all the battles are towards the rear of the field at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. They're side by side still. Curtis will be disappointed that he's dropped this far back with a bit of a spin there, but it's side by side between him, Miller, and a little bit more contact. Shepherd's going out wide as well, right to the edge of the track there, and they're going to come back together just about. Wheel banging as they head through the Brundle and Nelson complex. And out front, Donkin now looks like he's got Arnell under pressure. Arnell drifting wide out that final corner. Donkin's going to have that run on him as they head up to turn 1. Everyone else just dropping a wheel onto the dust there as they exit the final corner.
Well, John Lang's got a run on both of them here. Down the outside, they're 3 wide over the line. Nothing to separate them. It's a case of who's the last of the late breakers into Riches. Donkin's got the inside. John Lang has left it too late to break. He's out onto the curb, nearly out into the field on the outside. So Paul Donkin takes the lead. Steve Arnell, though, is on the inside line for the hairpin. This is incredible stuff between these 3. And Arnell's back up the inside. He's got him on the brakes for the hairpin. He's retaken the lead. Oh, brilliant from Steve Arnell.
How well did John Lang do to hold on to that car? He was very wide out of Coram that time, out of the first turn that time through. And yeah, on the dust and dirt, but managed to get it all stopped. And yeah, Arnell, absolutely opportunistic move there, back down the inside, got the outside here. John Lang looking to see whether he can make it 3 wide into Agostini. Surely that can't work. Donkin, though, does hold on. I think Arnell's going to see if he could get round the outside, but that's too far around this corner, and he's now going to have to protect away from John Lang.
John Lang thought better of it there than going down the inside and making it 3 wide into Agostini. I don't think 3 into 1 goes through there. But all the time, Rowe and Szaruta are closing fast as well. The gap between them is down to just under 2 seconds now, 3rd to 4th place. Andrew Parker is there in 6th position, and Stillwell, Platts, Pardo and Hooker rounding out the top turns. They head into the back of the circuit once again. John Lang is in the slipstream. Saruta's in David Rowe's slipstream as well. Here comes John Lang having a look to the inside of Steve Arnell there, side by side as they come down the Bentley straight, but Paul Donkin trying to put clear air between himself and the rest of the field once again.
Absolutely nose to tail between these 2, with Parker not too far behind as Arnell has to slink into that 3rd place. There's Stillwell making his way through after those early shenanigans, and it's all looking like it's coming back together again then with 8 and a bit minutes to go. Still plenty of time, and Hooker's not too far off the back of this. Arnell putting a wheel onto that grass on the inside there, had to get out of the throttle to let that one go. It wasn't a move that was going to persist, and Lang just about holds on as they just start to see the first signs that Donkin is pulling away from them.
Here they come through to complete another lap then. Paul Donkin leads by 0.7 of a second over John Lang. Steve Arnell, the early leader, down into 3rd position. They're clear of Christian Szaruta at the moment. He's got through into P4 ahead of David Rowe. Stephen Arnell closing back up again on John Lang, trying to take 2nd place away, possibly into the hairpin here on the inside. He moves out to the inside into Wilson. He locks up. He's not going to do it. There was possibly a little bit of contact there between the 2 of them. John Lang goes out wide. He keeps his foot in though, and will try and keep the inside line, but Christian Szaruta is now starting to loom up onto the back of the 2 of them as they head through Palmer. David Rowe is there in P5, and a gap of about 1.5 seconds back to Andrew Parker. He's got just under a second minute over Will Stillwell in P7. This is getting closer and closer for this 2nd place.
Absolutely, yeah, it's all coming back together again. Arnell holding back now John Lang, so he has managed to get back in front, but Szaruta is now right on the tail there, just ahead, bringing David Rowe with him, and Andrew Parker not too far back. So Arnell has got a bit of work to do to try and keep his fingertips on the rear end of Donkin's car. Parker drifting wide again there as Szaruta's looking every which way he can to see whether he can get past Lang this time. Really as close as you like then onto the back Bentley straight, and you'll see whether he's got the momentum. He's certainly carrying a bit of speed out of that corner. He's got a little bit of the toe, and we'll see him start to catch up. You can see that toe pulling him closer and closer as he jinks out just at the last minute so he can go side by side, and has got that run down the back straight, and does look like he's going to be able to make that stick as they head into Brundle Nelson.
Still side by side on the brakes. Is he going to get the move done before the right-hander at Nelson? He just about tucks in. John Lang fights back though as Szaruta runs out a little bit wide onto the curb. They're absolutely side by side, but Szaruta, he's got him round the outside coming out of Nelson. Excellent from the championship leader, the reigning champion. Christian Szaruta is up into third position and chasing Stephen Arnell now for second place. David Rowe is going to be next to have a go at our pole sitter John Lang. Paul Donkin meanwhile leads by 2 seconds. This will certainly help him close up in the championship.
Absolutely, and there was Hooker as well, sort of keeping himself in the mix. Everyone else still met much of a muchness around there. Just Matt Shepherd dropped off the back there after early issues. I think that was Lee Green dropping wide there out of our final corner that time through.
6 minutes of the race to go then, and John Lang's not finished yet. He fights back on the inside, coming through Riches. Bit of dust being kicked up there once again. Donkin still leads by 2 seconds, but Steve Arnell is certainly not finished yet either, trying to close back up on him, but Szaruta is now on his tail up towards the infield loop into Palmer's, then down towards Agostini. Lang defending as well from David Rowe. He goes for the inside through Palmer's, doesn't quite manage to get alongside. He could have a run into Agostini though, then Parker and Stillwell holding on behind. Slightly reduced field now. We've lost Cameron Miller, I notice. He's out of the race. A couple of drivers that didn't take the start of the second race. Will Race and the Knights as well. We lost too, sadly. That's a great shame. So here comes John Lang. David Rowe is indeed through at Agostini and up into fourth place now, closing on Christian Szaruta to try to take third, but Lang's still there. He's battling as hard as he can. It's the best we've seen. I think we've seen him run this season. Yeah, he's had some absolutely stellar runs in previous seasons, and in fact early on in this season I think he was also right up there. He's certainly a racer, and he's getting his nose put in all those kind of places and making knocking David's out of joint, isn't he? But David is now ahead. He did make that stick at Agostini, but it's never looked comfortable, and Lang has got the run at him, so it's going to return the favour, but outside of Brundle and Nelson complex is difficult to achieve. You can do it if you've got a really good run, but it's not going to happen this time. But Parker is now going to be looming large as Christian Szaruta has got ahead of Arnell, but is again not managed to shake that, and he has moved up into that second place. But he's still not looking comfortable at this point, whereas Donkin has sort of extended that lead that we saw just developing in front of Arnell, and now it's looking fairly conclusive with 4 minutes to go. Yes, all this squabbling has allowed Paul Donkin to build that lead of 2 3/4 seconds near enough as he comes up the centre straights once again. Szaruta now in P2 ahead of Stephen Arnell. Somebody nearly losing it, that was Nick Platts in ninth position coming out of Murray's. Ryan Hooker, we haven't seen much of him in this race. He's not been able to make as much progress towards the front of the field as he'd hoped. He's there in P8. This could harm his championship chances with it being so close at the moment between himself and Christian Szaruta. I think Andrew Parker will keep third place in the points. Of course, the website caterhamracer.com will have all the full confirmed standings in the coming days as Donkin continues to pull away in the red car. Szaruta up there in second place, just keeping it smooth there in that P2. 5 of them together for second place. Will Stillwell's dropped away a little bit. He's 1.5 seconds near enough further back. There he is, the black car, ahead of Ryan Hooker. Platts and Pardo round out the top 10. Alan Curtis still going well in P11, ahead of Matt Shepherd, Lee Green and Tom McEwing. Yeah, I think maybe Hooker's got some damage. He's certainly not injected himself like we would normally expect him to, and he doesn't look like he's got that ultimate pace that she had in that last race. So, yeah, maybe carrying a little bit of damage from those early corners, and now it does look like Sharuta's got the best of Arnell and has got a nice comfortable gap now, I'd call that one, so he can just settle in and see whether there's anything he can do about Donkin, but I don't believe there is. John Lang, though, is still not making David Rowe's life any easier as he continues. David Rowe protecting absolutely to the inside, no way through on the inside there. John Lang's going to see whether he can do anything, but he's going to have to go to the outside, and David Rowe knows that he's got that under control, as then there's a bit of contact as they head into the complex then, as
little nose to tail there as David was protecting so heavily to the inside, and John Lang had nowhere to use his speed, so there was a bit of contact, but no issues there as far as the cars were all able to continue with no damage.
Well, you can't say this has been anything less than entertaining tonight here at Snetterton and the caterhamracer.com 270R Championship as Paul Donkin continues to lead the way going into what I think will be his last lap this time through. There's 2 minutes on the clock as he comes up towards the start and finish line. The lead gap, if anything, has come down a little. He ran wide coming out of Murray's there. Yes, the lead gap 2 seconds between Paul Donkin and Christian Szaruta. Steve Arnell still up there in third position, looking for what I think will be his first podium of the season. Yeah, just looking back at the previous results, he was in the top 5 in race 1 at Thruxton last time out, which is his best result of the season so far. So looking for his first podium. Oh, we got cars going everywhere. That's David Rowe in trouble. He's had a moment coming out of Riches. We didn't see what happened there, and looks like he could be out of the race.
Does look like that now, doesn't it? I think the cars went scattering there as we just caught the rear of that accident, but there were other people heading off and left, right and centre, John Lang and Will Stillwell, so I'm not sure exactly what was the cause of that, but David Rowe looks to have made it all the way to the barrier, or at least had significant damage enough to mean that he can't complete this race on this final lap.
David Rowe really is the bad luck man of this championship this year. Another retirement for him as Donkin continues to lead Szaruta. Can Steve Arnell hang on for that first podium of the season? Ryan Hooker's up to P5 as a result of that mayhem coming out of the first corner at Riches, chasing Andrew Parker. And then Stillwell has recovered in P6. John Lang down to 7th position. So it's been all change for the minor placings here. Paul Donkin continues to set the pace. They go down the back straight. Donkin just taking it easy out in front at the moment, heading for, well, you wait for a victory to come along, and it's going to be 2 in 1 meeting for Paul Donkin, unless Christian Szaruta can reel him in here. He's trying his hardest. He's taken half a second out of him on this lap at the moment. I think he's just about going to run out of time. They come through towards Coram for what will be the last time. There's only 10 seconds left on the clock, so the checkered flag will be ready this time. They come through Coram towards Murray's, and Paul Donkin, the man who's raced just about everything over the years, from Porsches to Ford Focuses, Ariel Atoms and everything else in between, is going to be a double Caterham winner here at Snetterton 300 circuit this evening. Up towards the checkered flag they come. It's 2 from 2 for Paul Donkin, rather keeping his head while everyone else has been losing theirs. Christian Szaruta extends his championship lead with 2nd place once again. Steve Arnell, well done to him, his first podium of the season. Andrew Parker is 4th, Ryan Hooker is 5th, then Will Stillwell, John Lang, Nick Platts will come through to take 8th position ahead of Neil Pardo in the purple car, and Matt Shepherd, after problems early on, is in a drag race to the line along with Alan Curtis. Lee Green's coming up on them as well. We'll have to wait for the official timekeepers for the result there, but the other finisher will be Tom McEwen. Deep breath needed after that one.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was Donkin that brought it home in front. We just see Tom McEwen go over the line there, but ahead of Christian Szaruta, made it all the way through from that sort of erstwhile reverse grid. But Arnell, like you say, great to see him there in that 3rd place.
So Paul Donkin taking the win by just over a second ahead of Christian Szaruta. He backed off slightly on that last lap. Steve Arnell in 3rd, his best results of the season so far, ahead of Andrew Parker. Ryan Hooker in P5 ahead of Will Stillwell and John Lang. Then behind it was Nick Platts and Neil Pardo. And Alan Curtis just got 10th place on the line there. A few hundredths in it with Matt Shepherd and Lee Green. Tom McKimming, the final finisher. We lost the seemingly ever unlucky David Rowe. Also Cameron Miller, a non-finisher. Non-starts for Jason and Hudson Knights. No Paul Oglesby and Will Rayson either. Paul Oglesby presumably with damage from race 1. And of course Paul Ferniehoff not able to race tonight due to illness, sadly. Get well soon, Paul.
Indeed. Well, it's been an eventful evening with longer races than anticipated, and then a reverse grid that and drivers that seem to want to sort of step over each other at every single opportunity. But that is what it is like sometimes, isn't it? We just roll with those. And yeah, it was some great racing in between, you know, multi-lap and multi-corner battles. You can see just Ryan Hooker's car there in the pits. But yeah, let's quickly go and see. I know we're a bit later than normal, but let's quickly go and see whether any of our podium finishers are available for a quick chat. Let's start with our double winner tonight, and Paul Donkin. Let's see whether he's available. Hey, Paul, have you got us in the commentary box?
Hi, Chris, you all right?
So, dominant night. A bit of a bit fraught in that second race for you, but you were ahead of all the shenanigans in that first race and disappeared off down the road.
Yeah, I think was it Christian and Ryan came together at the start, which it's not ideal, but it suited me anyway, and just managed to get a nice gap and extend that all the way to the end. Perfect.
An easy night, if there ever is such a thing. Like I say, where everyone else is losing their head, you kept yours nicely.
Yeah, I mean, it was still very tough, especially the 25-minute race. But let's be honest, I don't think that's going to be repeatable in the real world, a gap like that. But we shall see next week.
I was going to say, it's only a week and a bit to go, and then we'll see you out there in the 420, the 7 Championship UK, and doing rather well this year in the AM Group.
Yeah, I mean, this is great practice. In the 420s, real life, obviously. Yeah, the season's gone well so far. Just want to keep my head down, avoid trouble, because there's plenty of that, and see how we get on. 3 rounds left, and yeah, it should be good.
Can't wait to see it. So I'll see you in a bit, and good luck for the real world racing.
Perfect. See you next week. Cheers, Chris. Bye now.
Great stuff. And let's get in our second place driver then, Christian. I'll get him onto the commentary. Have you got us, Christian, in the commentary box? Hello, Christian. Have you got us? Unresponsive. Maybe stepped away. Like I say, we've taken slightly longer. Just 2 seconds more before.
Hello.
Ah, there you are. Yes,
hello.
I know you. Got you.
I just switched my steering wheel off.
Ah, this is an error. So a bit of a mishap on the old timing there. So a little bit of a longer race, but that let you recover all the way through in that first race. So for you, that I guess was a bit of a blessing.
Yeah, look, I didn't need the extra 10 minutes. I would quite happily have not sweated for another 10 minutes. Yeah, no idea what happened at the start with Ryan. I have to look at that one back. Yeah. So,
a night of fighting back through, basically, is the story of your night, I guess.
Yeah, Donkin was long gone by the time I'd found my way through, so...
And setting some pretty spectacular times as
he
well.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, he was actually flying, so fair play. But I will be not present for the next round. I have to go to America for work, so
this is going to throw everything up in the air and see where it lands.
Yeah.
So it's just as well he did recover back through tonight then. But Hooker's going to be sort of chomping at the bit then.
Exactly. So I kept that quiet to discourage, not encourage Ryan too much.
Okay, well I shall go and ask him now then.
Yes.
Let him know the good news.
I think there's about 10, 12 points in it, something like that.
Yep, it's a bit to recover. So okay, that'll be interesting then. So have a nice time in America, but equally, it'll be nail biting to see whether you can hold on then.
I'll be watching from afar. Yes.
Indeed, yeah, definitely tune in. All right, good stuff tonight, and fingers crossed you got enough points.
Cheers.
All right, let's get Ryan in here, and we can see whether he knows the good news. Ryan, have you got us in the commentary box?
Yes. Good evening, Chris.
Well, a bit of a fighty evening, but I got some interesting news just then from Christian that he's unable to make the next round. So all to play for still, whilst tonight's second result maybe not as good as you like. Actually, that keeps everything nicely open for the next round.
Well, that's obviously certainly interesting news. I had a bit of a strange one tonight. I was at Snetterton today, got home 5 to 8, rushed, got in, couldn't connect, connected via my phone in the end, went to plan in qualifying, and I was just having a little look at the replay at the start and trying to make, because I don't know and Chris don't know, so we was just having a little look at it to see
yeah, there was a bit of, I think,
what happened really.
Maybe because on the because of the connection. I saw a bit of rubber banding earlier, so maybe that was what it was. Certainly, that'd be interesting to review back afterwards. But yeah, a bit of a disappointing evening, and obviously fraught. But nevertheless, like I say, that you did fight back through in race 1 and race 2. Again, some fairly solid points, and it's going to make it close, given that you've still got the opportunity to score more.
Yeah, no, that's very true. If I mean, the main thing really is just having a really, really good race. So, great to start on the front row, and then you just never know what would happen. But to then find yourself, same as Chris, at the back, then we'll just see what we can do. And it was really good, nice race. To get all the way back to the podium is, yeah, I just enjoyed having a really, really good race. And then race 2, there's always the risk of sort of trying to go sit on the outside, I guess. I got unfortunately collected, and then I think the other person got collected, so I thought, oh, I've got to try and do it all again. And but yeah, I think I lucked in a little bit there on the last lap or penultimate lap, making of 3 places. So 3rd and 5th, good points, but I guess perhaps potentially should have been 2 podiums.
Yeah, that's what it looked like from the outside. And yeah, we missed some of the instigators of those issues. So yeah, hopefully their connection will be back to normal next time. And yeah, wish you all the best for the next round.
Yeah, thanks very much. Looking forward to it. And as at the moment, work's not getting in the way, so I should be there as well.
Excellent. We'll see you at Snetterton in a week and a bit anyway. So good luck with that as well.
That's lovely. Thanks a lot, Chris.
There we go then. An interesting night's racing, and as we've said, we've got 1 round to go. So Snetterton was the penultimate round, and Donington at the 23rd of August will be back online racing. But as ever, the real world follows where we sort of lay the trail. And if you want to join us and see real Caterham action, why not come and join us at Snetterton on the 19th and 20th of August?
I shall certainly be there for that one. I booked my hotel only this morning.
Excellent stuff. So really looking forward to that, and yeah, we will update all the standings and everything else that goes into this, and we will see where we stand, and we will keep you all abreast of all those championship standings when we're back with you at Snet.
Okay, well, a pleasure to be on commentary once again, Chris, and thank you to all the drivers for giving us plenty of entertainment to talk about in what's been a rather crazy evening, and I can't wait for that final round at Donington in a couple of weeks.
Indeedy. So that's one last thank you to our sponsors. The caterhamracer.com Season 10 270R Championship is sponsored by DPR Motorsport, your competitive advantage, and by 1-to-1 on-track coaching and simulator training with Ryan Hooker. We're supported by FB0 Simulators. We will see you soon. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Good night.